Welcome to our first panel of the awards, exploring diversity and inclusion in the captive industry. When we talk about inclusion, we are talking today about inclusion in all spaces, from gender to race, to age, to sexuality, to disability. We have a wonderful panel today that is going to discuss these issues. We are talking to Lara Ribeiro from Generali, Farah Jaafar-Crossby from Labuan IBFC, and Shruti Vyas from SES Satellites. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Lara.
So a paper published in 2011 by economists from Brown University found that diversity in an organization, city, or society actually increases economic growth. This is just one reason why diversity is important and why it can help organizations. Why do you think that diversity is important? Farah?
Thanks, Lauren. It's quite simple, really. It brings an opportunity for alternative views. And, when we start talking about diversity, it's interesting to try and understand that in the space of risk management insurance, where the idea is to mitigate risk, diversity is important. Alternative views are important in order to ensure that all risks are on the table, as it were, so we understand the environment. And so, if anything, I'd like to see that the insurance industry or the risk management industry will be the bastion of the example of diversity. But diversity is important because we are all unique.
I think that's a really good point. Like when you're looking at risk management, you're trying to look at a whole lot of different areas, and how can you see everything clearly unless you have a whole lot of different people with different experiences kind of trying to analyze that risk. Lara, what's your view when we come to this, and why diversity is important, in general or to you personally?
Well, I guess to start with, it's easy for me to say that I work in a very diverse environment. I guess that fortunately, JEB's a very international company, and we are with, I guess today, with dozens of different nationalities. So I feel myself lucky in that, and I feel every day how having different people in our teams, how having different people in the management, how we can embrace what we have already seen in studies, and it's proven by McKinsey and so on, that the productivity, the creativity, the innovation, and I guess that the environment we are working, our industry needs this innovation, it needs this creativity, it needs this push from diverse, not only as we mentioned gender, but different political views, different cultures, different the equality of gender and so on. So that all these ideas are exposed in an equal way. So I think that it's very important because the insurance and the finance industry, they're driving the other industry somehow. And specifically in the insurance side, when we are talking about how we are providing, for example, coverages to our employees, this also reflects the DNA of the company. So I truly believe that it's not only a topic that is trendy and that it's nice to put on our website and in the agenda, but it's something that will really drive to benefits and to economical benefits to every company.
I mean, that's something, I think there has been some people who have kind of criticized this push, saying, oh, it's just very trendy right now, people have to be woke. But this is something that people have been working on for years and years and years. Anyone from these diverse communities, like us as women or people of color or people with disabilities, have been pushing for this for a really long time. And it's not that suddenly there's been a movement and it's cool to do it. It's that, no, we deserve these, equal opportunities in the industry. Shruti, what is your view when it comes to this?
I think I have said it on many occasions, and something I would like to repeat again, and is very applicable here, is strategies. We might have wonderful strategies in the company, but as long as we are not tackling the culture of the company, which includes the having a principle, diversity and inclusion as a principle, we are not going to make any difference. And as one of the philosophers has said, strategy is what a culture eats for breakfast. So, I mean, And as I think Lara and Farah have rightly pointed out, and this is something I cannot stress enough, is that insurance risk captive, this whole industry of ours, is creativity is the backbone for us. And the more diverse, the more different everyone is there, the better it is to get new ideas, new themes in it. Because as one must have seen, captive industry has evolved over the years. It's not what was there even 5 years ago. The kind of product, the kind of challenges we face, it's more like you throw out a question and the industry spits you an answer, and it might very well be that the answer was never even heard of. And what can lead to it? I mean, if you are always doing consistently what you've been doing, you'll get the same results, but that's never the theme of the captive industry. So you need to evolve, and the industry needs to be more active and more dynamic. And how can you do that? The best way, I mean, I would say the easiest way is be more diverse in how you're working.
I mean, exactly as you said, the captive industry has always been an innovative industry because it's creating things. It's finding new way to tackle risk. And how can you be that innovative if you only have the same type of person from the same background? At the top, you can't, because people are going to think very similar if they've had that same experience. And you get someone new in who has a completely different experience, and they're going to come up with something very different that can have great solutions. And I think that's kind of at the core of it as well. As we've been saying, people with different backgrounds do different things and do better things in a different way.
I think that was, if I can elaborate, that was one of the questions I asked when I moved to this industry from my managers and from my hiring managers and everybody up top, that why me? Because I don't have a real insurance background. I'm an engineer by background. And they said, no, that's what we need in this industry. We need different people, and that's what you bring to the table, a difference. So that's how I came into the industry.
But exactly, like an engineer is going to think about things differently to someone who's had that training in insurance. And that's how you can do things that someone else couldn't, because you're just thinking about it in a very different way. And that applies to all diversity as well. And in the end, it'll give us a better outcome. So, so there are a lot of good things that are happening in the industry. And as you said, you know, in the last 5 years, it has changed a lot. There are some movements like the SECA in the US has an Amplify Women committee that's doing some really great things. But what are the changes that you've all seen that are improving the industry in general? Lara, what's your view?
I'm muting. I guess that specifically when, again, looking towards captives, we are starting to discuss things like the benefit design in each country, for example. Like specifically me, an EB background, we start to see, okay, companies reaching out to us, okay, what's being offered, what's in the policy design for my employee in a given country, how can we harmonize that? And I think this is absolutely related to diversity and inclusion. So I guess that's what we are expecting to see towards the future is really how can we include, I don't know, provide better coverage for people over 65, to HIV exclusions we need to talk about and tackle that, or the transgender exclusions, like for people that need sex reassignment surgeries and so on, life benefits and the people to receive the life benefits. So how can we make it inclusive for the LGBT community and so on? So it's such a vast and such a long list of things I could mention here that companies could be doing in relation to insurance and captive. And the nice thing is that we start to see these talks. Unfortunately, right now, at this very moment, in this sense, I don't see anything very much structured, a company with a full program for benefit design being applied in a country-by-country basis, but we do see the talks starting. So this is already comforting, and this is already giving a good sign to the industry.
And I mean, exactly what Shruti says is having that structure at the base of an organization is going to help, and talking about these things. So then they can come to someone like you and say, oh, look, we need to talk about how we can work this out to, help our employees essentially. And again, that's something that insurance can really help and can really, help those businesses be more inclusive, get more diverse people in. Shruti, so I mean, as you said, the structure is really important. What are some of the things that you've seen recently, or in the last 5 years, that have gotten better?
In the industry as a whole, I'm seeing that the inclusion part, maybe it's knowingly, or sometimes I even think it's unknowingly, that people are embracing the principle more and more. They're trying to get people with different backgrounds into it, irrespective of, as we said, gender, race, background, age, or even education qualification. People are being more open, and that's what I'm seeing more and more happening. And sometimes I feel this is more of an unconscious effort, because as Lara correctly pointed out, now we are facing with new challenges of, let's try to include this in the coverages, let's try to offer that, and we have to address so many various issues. I think this is coming from, this is more driven by the issues than by the community as such. But in the end, there is a drive, and there is an opening, and there is a willingness for everybody to have this inclusion principle there. So I think it's going in the right direction, but there is a lot of work to do, as you would see, but it's a good starting point.
Yeah, definitely. It is a good starting point, and you always have to start somewhere. Farah, what's your experience been in terms of, you've been in the financial services industry and a lot of different areas, and what do you see overall?
Overall, personally, I have been so extremely lucky. I have had, from get-go, the days when I was a stockbroker, to now, massive female mentors who've literally taken me under their wings, explained to me how beautiful hard work can be and how rewarding it is. And the fact that you're a woman, or the fact that you're different, or in any way, shape, or form, because we are talking about diversity here, should not hold you back. That's one thing I've seen. I think the other thing I've seen is that the misconception, especially maybe in areas from people who are not Asians, they tend to think that in Asia there's less inclusion. It's a very patriarchal society. But the fact is, in Asia there's a lot of equality. It's not portrayed that way, but there is a lot of equality. I mean, in Malaysia, for example, our central bank governor for yonks was a woman, and she has now been replaced by another woman, right? Chairmen of banks are women. In the captive industry, the first year we had the captive awards, the person that was who won the most outstanding contribution to the industry was a woman who ran Asia's only rated captive Energas, right? And the second year, Shi Wei from AXA won as well. So I think there is an opportunity here to really push the agenda by highlighting women and diversity within the captive industry, within financial services. But I think what's being done at base is that as women, or as people from a diverse background, to just really start encouraging other people of diversity to not shy away, to say it's okay, right? You are who you are, and you will be assessed based on merit. Let's not forget, we're all women here, but behind us, they are strong. We have a strong support system, and they are men, right? So, I think it's important to understand that we need to talk about it, but there is definitely advancement in this space.
And I think what you said about people having an incorrect, perception of women in Asia and society, again, that just shows how so many people have, they just assume things, and they don't actually understand diversity, and they don't understand other cultures, and it kind of very much holds it up to a thinking that the white Western way is the best way and that they have it, when you've got to actually look at it and see that a lot of other countries are doing things quite well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I always say to people is this, right? In Asia, there's this saying, it's a Chinese saying, that the man is the face of the family, but the woman is the neck. So you've got to think where the face lands without the neck, right? That goes to the core of really equality in Asia.
I love that so much. So as we've said, you know, there's some good things that have happened in recent years, and I think there's good movements happening. And as Lara said, I think people are starting to discuss this more, which is fantastic. But obviously, there is more to do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having a diversity and inclusion panel. We wouldn't be talking about this if everything was perfect. What are things that we can work on, or areas that, you know, the captive industry in general can look at that can improve? Shruti, what's your view?
The most important thing for me is being aware of your unconscious biases that you have. Whether be it in captive risk, insurance, or even if you're most importantly, actually, when you're a hiring manager and when you're trying to get new people on board, give people a benefit of doubt, because you don't look at just the resumes and the names and the genders and the ages. Try to look beyond and just on the qualification part of the resume. So, and be aware that yes, we are all humans and we have unconscious thoughts pre-programmed in ourselves. So be conscious of it and try to fight them, especially as a hiring manager. And I think that would be the best way forward for all of us.
Well, I think that a lot of organizations now, especially coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests, are starting to roll out unconscious bias training. And that is something that is so easy for an organization to do, but it can help so much. Because as you said, everyone has unconscious biases. They're unconscious. You can't necessarily help them. But when you start to unpack that and get some training, you can realize, oh, wow, that was an unconscious bias. I can look at that and, you know, unpack what I'm doing and be better and hire people based on merit. Yep. Farah, what are things that you think we can do to help the situation?
Aside from really exposing females within the industry, right? As I said before, I think we need to talk it up. It's also important to kind of allow yourself to be mentors to other women. I think, you know, when you look at women, we tend to undersell ourselves. You know, someone once said, you give a woman a job and she will think that she needs to be able to deliver 150%, right? And I think that's something that we carry with us, which we need to kind of disregard, allow ourselves to be mini mentors. All of us can be mentors. I think that's important. One of the things that we are looking at doing next year is actually have a loose grouping of female risk managers, female insurance professionals, to just kind of create an environment where we are able to share, you know, and I think that's what diversity brings also, not just, you know, going away a little bit from the female, the gender issue. I think the ability to share experiences is something that we need to work on. And it's not just necessarily about technical aspects, right? I think if there's anything this whole 2020 pandemic year has allowed us to understand is that emotionally, psychologically, it's important that we share within our professional circles as well.
Oh, definitely. And I think, as you said, the kind of interesting, you know, women feel like they have to do more. There's a very famous statistic which showed that women will apply for a job if they think they meet 80% or more of the requirements. Men will apply if they think they meet 50%. And then often they'll get those jobs. And it's that we need to back ourselves more, and, you know, having a mentor is really fantastic because it helps you with that confidence.
Yeah.
Lara, what do you think we can do more in the industry, or things you'd like to see?
I think Shruti, she mentioned something very important there, the unconscious bias. I guess we all do it. We do it all the time, and it's not, I guess the first thing is to acknowledge that. So Then to, of course, to have trainings on that, because most of this information is not, it's in the agenda, but it's not so accessible to people. So companies, they need to make this information accessible to people. The trainings, they need to be there. And I don't think it's only a top-down approach. I think it's an exercise that everyone should put on their agendas a bit every day. I think that's also, we talk a lot about diversity, and most of the companies are doing a good job with relation to diversity, but we also need to talk a lot about the inclusion part, because we need to have the sense of belonging. So it's not only about having that number of people from a certain ethnicity or a certain gender, but also to get these people heard. So if you have someone from your team who's a bit shy, let them talk up, ask for their opinion, like involve people with different backgrounds, because our generation, so the millennials, the baby boomers, they have this, okay, we need to talk about diversity and inclusion, but they don't know exactly what to do that. But the Z generation, the generation that's coming now, they will ask for products for companies. So it will be about the acquisition of new talents. It will be about creating products and services for this new generation. So we need to be future-proof, and this will be a lot related to diversity and inclusion. So again, it won't be just something trendy, but something needed on a daily basis.
Oh, exactly. And I think you make a really good point about the generation coming up, like, you know, Generation Z. They are much, much stronger. It started with kind of millennials, but they are much stronger in asking for inclusive products, for saying, you know, I'm going to spend my money somewhere that I trust that brand and I think they're inclusive. And that's really important. And I think that is something that will push brands even more and organizations even more to be more diverse. Another thing I think is very interesting, so at VCIA a couple of months ago, there was a suggestion to start having it be more transparent and actually doing a survey, looking at what the statistics are in terms of all types of diversity, and then across, you know, captive organizations, captive service providers, captive owners. And I think that's something that we can really do that will help, because you can't know where to focus on until you have that data and you can say, look, you know, these are the areas we're falling behind. These are the areas we can improve on. Why can't we, you know, get all this information together? And I think something like that would really help a lot, to be honest. So we're almost out of time, but does anyone have anything else that they want to just, you know, at a point they really want to make when we look at diversity and inclusion that they haven't been able to talk about yet?
Laura, and if I just reiterate what you said in the very beginning, and that topic is really close to my heart, so I would want to make sure it's there, that diversity doesn't mean only gender, it means gender, age, race, disability, everything. I mean, and the second important aspect is, when you talk about diversity, please do not forget about inclusion, because it's, I would not say it's very easy, but it's easier to tick the boxes and say, I need to have this, and this within the organization. But then it's the most difficult part comes when they are there and you need to feel them included, because that's where the clock really starts to tick for everybody, if we can really make it work or not work.
I think that's a really good point, because I think you can hire someone, but then if they don't feel included in the organization, they're not going to stay. They're going to have a really terrible time. So make sure that you have a diverse community, but that, yeah, they're part of the team and nothing is kind of setting them apart.
Yeah, and actually, Lauren, I wanted to segue nicely from what Shruti said. I think at the end of the day, number one, it cannot be a tick the box exercise, right? So it's not about fact. You have to own it. It really has, you know, it has to resonate deeply. But I think at the end of the day, regardless of how much diversity we add, how inclusive we are, it's about us as humans being empathic, right? Understanding that empathy has to be top of the agenda, right? As long as we are empathic, inclusion and diversity will come naturally, regardless of whether we're female, males, sexual orientation, ageism, you know, what have you. It's about being empathic, you know, more empathy is needed globally, right? And I think this year, if nothing else, has shown that.
Well, I think that's a great point to end on. And thank you all so much for being part of this panel. I think we've made some really good points, and I know that we're all going to go out and continue fighting for this in our, daily lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Lauren.
you, Lauren.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Lauren.
ladies. And it's a pleasure to be part of this event.